Hey guys, Sean Pruitt here. If you understood what I'm about to share with you, it will open up your mind to understand what's happening in the global oil and gas markets. It'll just make more sense to you, okay? I'm Sean Pruitt, president of Kingdom Exploration. If you like this channel, please subscribe. Now, there are many things I'm going to say that are going to trigger the algorithm into demonetizing this video. So please get the word out by sharing this video, share it with your friends, share it with your family. Now, here's the deal. BRICS is more than a way to disrupt global trade. It's more about stepping out from underneath the powers that be so they could control their own future, okay? Now, the thing you have to understand that there are powers that control the oil markets, and they're tired of it, okay? For instance, Brent crude is traded globally, okay? And so there's Brent crude, and then there's WTI West Texas Intermediate. Now, 60% of the world's oil supply is bought and sold in Brent crude pricing, okay? And it's traded on the Intercontinental exchange known as ICE, okay? It's based in the United Kingdom, and the largest commodity traders of this fund is Vitol, Glencore, and Trafigura. Now, remember those three names, okay? And I'm going to be discussing them later, and you'll understand more why. So 60% of oil is bought and sold on the Brent crude price. And now there's WTI, the second largest traded commodity, which is traded on the NYMEX, the New York Mercantile Exchange based in New York, and 20% of global crude is traded and priced by the NYMEX, okay? So 80% of the world's oil supply is bought and sold and controlled by NYMEX and ICE, okay? The European Exchange and the New York Stock Exchange, okay? And the biggest buyers of NYMEX WTI crude is BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard, okay? So there's 6 companies that control the price of 80% of the world's oil supply, which is Vitol, Glencore, Trafigura, BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard. Now, these companies, what do they all have in common? They all submit to ESG, okay? And so here's their stance in global warming. And I went to each one of their websites, and I got, and all of them have the same, they all smell the same, if you know what I mean. Okay, so Vitol, they're committed to reducing the carbon footprint and investing in renewable energy projects. Glencore aims for net zero emissions by 2050, investing in renewable energy and carbon capture. Trafigura targets carbon neutrality by 2030 for shipping operations, exploring green hydrogen and other low carbon technologies. BlackRock, strong advocate for addressing climate change, integrating climate risk into investment process. So BlackRock is the leader in pushing ESG and ESG standards across the globe. State Street promotes sustainable investing and supports the transition to low carbon economy. Vanguard recognizes the importance of addressing climate change, aiming for net zero emissions across investment portfolios by 2050. Now, here's the deal. These 6 companies submit to ESG, and these 6 companies control 80% of the global oil price, and they're all anti-oil. And so here's what you have to understand. ESG is controlled by the United Nations. It's controlled by Western ideology, meaning the left, the liberal thinking, okay? So in other words, I mean, you look what happened, the United Nations run who? World Health Organization. And when I say who, you know exactly what goes to your mind, what happened, the major event that happened in 2020. You know what they tried to jam and shove down their throat and jam in other places, if you know what I mean. That same ideology, that same thought process is controlling the price of a barrel of crude. Now, the Energy Information Administration is ran by the same people. It's an information war. It's information war. I mean, you look at what they do in China. You look at what they do in North Korea. You look what happened in Germany by Adolf Hitler. They control information. And all of these conglomerates, these 6 companies and the United Nations in the West, they all want you to believe that the demand for oil is stagnant and the demand for oil is dropping. The trillions of dollars we're spending on renewable energy is working. Oil is not the future. Green energy is. They are shoving, and they're making you believe, like, listen, oil is to be blamed for global warming, hurricanes, and all these things. They're trying to get you to believe all of those things. Okay, and here's the deal. The 6 large companies, Vitol, Glencore, Trafigura, BlackRock, State Street, Vanguard, I might have missed somebody, they control 80% of the world's oil supply by doing this. For instance, if oil prices are climbing to $100 a barrel, they'll sell at 90, and then they'll buy it again at 70. Or 85, whatever it drops down to. So they sell high and buy low over and over again, and they make billions and billions of dollars, and they are reducing the price of a barrel of crude. They control it. So they are, if you control the price of a barrel of crude, that means every time you sold high, you could always buy low. Every time, okay? And so there's not enough people willing to hold the line that are working together to hold the line to keep that commodity price rising to $100-something a barrel. Now, in the short term, it's good because, and here's what you have to understand. You got to think about who benefits from the current administration. Iran benefits from the current administration. Russia benefits from the current administration. Afghanistan, in the powers that are there, they benefit from the current administration. United Nations benefits from the current administration. NATO, okay? ESG, green energy, all of these things benefit, okay? Who doesn't benefit? People that are in oil. They don't benefit from the current administration, but although they do, because the current administration is reducing the amount of capital available to oil and gas industries, stifling growth for the oil and gas industry, trying to make the world use the news and information. It's information war, make us all believe that the demand for oil is not increasing. Okay, let me show you. Let me give you an example here. If you look at today's news right now, strong Indian purchases push Asia's crude imports to 1-year high. Okay, Asia, the key crude oil importing region, and a gauge of oil demand trends set to welcome in May, 27.81 million barrels per day of crude oil volumes, nearly 1 million barrel per day higher than the April imports per the LSEG oil research data. And then it goes on to say 710,000 of that demand growth was from India alone. Now, here's something you have to understand. Of course, Asian oil demand is growing. If they consumed as much oil as an American consumed, each American consumed, their consumption would be over 300 million barrels a day, 3 times global oil demand Asia would consume alone. If you look at just India alone, they have over 1.4 billion people. If each Indian person from India consumed as much oil as each America consumed alone, they would consume 80% of the world's oil consumption, 80 million barrels a day, okay? Because America consumes, we're about 333 million people. We consume about 21 million barrel a day demand, okay? So if the rest of the world had our demand, there would not be enough oil. So Americans are very selfish, okay? We consume most of the oil, and we're the richest nation in the world because everyone uses our dollar, okay? Now, so this is why you have guys like John Kerry traveling the world, which he doesn't anymore. He retired, I guess, I don't know. This is why they're pushing everyone else, like, hey, you need to use green energy. We're already consuming too much oil. We already made the mistake. We're the selfish bastards of the world, and we're using the world's resources, finite resources, and the rest of the world can't do that. Okay, yes, we've built a superpower. Yes, we have more running water for each person than any person in the world. Yes, we live a life of luxury. Yes, we have more security, more safety, better health care. We have better access to a better lifestyle than the rest of the world because of cheap, abundant energy. But hey, there's not enough oil to do that anymore. So hey guys, use green energy. That's what they're doing. But they're making it sound like they're selfless. They're making it sound like, oh, we're trying to save the world. We're driving green energy unicorns and everything's going to be great. Look, they have yet to come close to the promises that they've made. And the only reason why it looks like consumption is dropping is because they're lying to us. They're using, every time the EIA puts out a number of how much oil is consumed, they always have to make a correction. But a billion people see the news, and then only 10% of that sees the correction. Okay, it's all by design to keep the price of a barrel of crude low. Okay, so with that said, you have all of these companies controlling, these 6 major companies controlling 80% of the world's oil price, okay, between Brent crude and WTI, West Texas Intermediate crude. Okay, now let's look at BRICS. BRICS was formed because they are tired of that. They're tired of this broken system. They're tired of them trying to push India and China and these other countries into this green energy nightmare that is proven. I mean, look at the hell Germany has gone through. You look at America, we're the richest nation in the world. And if we can't get it together, if we can't get green energy to work, then how in the world do you expect countries that actually have to work for their money? I mean, America just prints. They have to create capital. We just print because we have the most demanded currency in the world, the only fiat currency that has lasted this long, okay? Which we have 30-something trillion in debt and another 90 trillion on debts that we owe to with Social Security and so on and so forth, okay? It's impossible to maintain that. And if you don't think the price of a barrel of crude won't go up because it's traded in dollars, think again, okay? So BRICS, they're bypassing the US dollar because they're tired of making America richer. They're bypassing the system because they're tired of companies like BlackRock and State Street and Vanguard and these other 3 companies in Europe controlling Brent crude. They're tired of these companies controlling the price of a barrel of crude. So they're taking this and they're paving their own road. They're in control of their own destiny, okay? And so BRICS is organizing and more people are signing up, okay? And once they get to where they want to be here in the next 4 or 5 years, they are going to have more control because they 40%, like 35 to 40% of the world's oil supply comes out of the Middle East, but 80% of it's controlled by Europe and America. You see, they're tired of that. They want that 40% of the oil to be sold in their currency. And now not only do they control supply, but they also control the price. And once they do that, we're going to see oil prices go to levels because you can't trade 80% of the world's oil supply on the NYMEX and the ICE anymore. Now you're going to have to go to the Middle East to buy. And when that happens, oil prices are going to go to levels that you've never seen before. And they're going to stay there even though, Sean, oil demand is dropping. Well, they're expected to see 107 million barrel a day demand. India's demand is growing. I mean, they have the potential to reach 80 million barrels a day. Today, they're consuming about 4.4 million barrels a day. They have the potential to consume 80 million barrels a day. I mean, even if they consumed a fourth of what America consumed, that'd be 20 million barrels of oil a day. Who's going to be able to provide that much oil? India is growing. Regardless of what the EIA is saying, what the West is saying, look, it's an information war. Listen, I'm here to tell you that everything they've done with green energy isn't working. It isn't working, guys. It is one failure after the other, but they're not coming out and telling you. Just think about the truth that you do know. I mean, we do know that these electric cars are not being purchased. They're just sitting on the lot, just sitting there collecting dust. They are not being purchased, and we know that for a fact. Imagine if the truth truly came out. Green energy isn't working, oil demand is growing, and the system, the powers that be, is losing their grip thanks to BRICS. Well, I'm not saying, praise BRICS or whatever. I'm not for BRICS. I'm not against BRICS, but it is what it is. I don't blame them. I mean, if I was selling my crude in US dollars and America became richer every time I sold a barrel of oil and I made less money, I'd get tired of sharing my wealth with these guys, okay? And so here's the deal. Like I said before, who benefits from the current administration? Iran has become very rich from the current administration. Now, people are saying, who? The guy that could be in office, that's being indicted. I don't want to say his name. Well, Sean, if that guy comes in office, oil prices are going to come down, blah, blah, blah. Listen, when he was in office, yes, oil prices were lower. But during that time, oil demand was about 90 million barrels a day demand. And American oil output, we grew 8 million barrel a day output in a short 8 years. We didn't know, the markets didn't even know how to handle that excess oil. Fast forward to today, we were 14 million barrel a day demand stronger with the same oil output as then. Okay. So we don't have enough oil. Okay. People are saying, oh, we've got plenty of oil. OPEC has an extra 2.2 million barrel of oil being sidelined because they're curbing and cutting production. Listen, we're going to need every bit of that. Okay. World oil demand is expected to grow to 107 million barrels a day in a short time. Okay. And so if comes in office, Iran is going to war. See, Iran benefits from the current administration. Why would they jack up the price of a barrel of crude, jack up gas prices, jack up food costs even more? If they benefit from the current administration, come November, the war starts. Come November, the gloves are coming off, because at that point, either you got the left in office or you got the right in office. But either way, it doesn't matter anymore because they're waiting. And the ESG who controls these 6 major companies that control oil prices, they could care less about oil. I guarantee you, although nothing's guaranteed except death and taxes, but I'm very confident that if gets in office, the powers that be, these 6 companies that control 80% of the oil price, WTI and Brent crude, they're going to allow oil prices to go up higher. And Iran is going to go to war with Israel. And there's going to be other regional wars happening in the Middle East. And Russia's gloves are going to come off because they hate the right. And they want them to crumble. And they want to blame for it all. Now, what do you guys think is going to happen? Comment below. Tell me what you guys think. Please share some news articles and whatnot. All right, guys. I'm Sean Pruitt, president of Kingdom Exploration. Please share this video. Please get the truth out there. All right, guys. Thanks.